Yeah. So damn nerdy.
I'll take you to the comic shop. I'll show you all the bills I drop. When I grab my bonus box. Wednesdays when the comics drop. Whoa!
I'll take you to the comic shop. Barbarians are what I bought. I'll keep spending all I got.
Hey guys, this is a quick wrap-up of exclusives for San Diego Comic-Con 2013. And so the focus of this video is to give a little kind of a wrap-up of how things went in terms of some of the bigger booths for exclusives at Comic-Con this year, and hopefully it'll be a help for 2014 to see some of the trends and some of the things that have changed and things like that. So kind of a quick wrap-up. We normally do what we call Under the Con at the end of each day, or at least at the end of the convention for most of the conventions we cover. But with San Diego being such a different type of animal, how large it is, this one we're kind of breaking up into some different segments, and so today we're going to focus on the exclusives. So first off, one of the biggest things for anybody hunting exclusives at Comic-Con is Hasbro, and so hopefully you watched our informational video about getting into Hasbro, and hopefully you had success with that. I had a lot of viewers come by at the con and tweet me and things like that afterwards saying that they were successful because of some of the stuff there, so that's really cool, and hopefully you were. Some of the biggest things there and the things that we were after, one was the Deadpool taco truck, and this was, in my opinion, just as awesome as thought it was going to be, with individual tacos. The figures are wrapped in there, and so really cool. I wish I would have picked up, I did pick up two, but the other one went to a friend, and so we picked up only one for ourselves. Wish I would have two, because it's definitely the type of thing you want to keep in the package and also have one to open. Nice item there. One of the things that really caused, Hasbro always has a variety of types of fandoms kind of colliding, from the ponies to the Star Wars, the Marvel, and this was definitely a hot item this year and caused a lot of that stress in that booth. Another was the Hasbro Boba Fett, first in the 6-inch line, Black Series, and so this was a really hot item. It sold out late Friday, I believe, maybe early Saturday, but it was a quick sellout. The only thing that went before it was the Magic cards, which caused its own hysteria. This is a shared exclusive with Star Wars Celebration, so you'll notice there's no Comic-Con sticker on it, and so some people had asked about that and sent me tweets about that, but it's a shared exclusive. Also, some people asked about the fact that Hasbro sells some things after the con online, and that's a common practice, something that they do every year with Mattel, and so another hot item there. And then the other thing we picked up at that booth, even though not a huge fan and have never picked up the Angry Birds toys for Star Wars in the stores, this we thought was really cool, the original 12. Thought it was kind of a cool rendition of that, and so we picked that up as well. Hasbro was just as crazy as we expected it to be. Hopefully you stayed away on preview night, because that was a recommendation, and it was a mess beyond a mess from what we saw. We had a unique experience this year in that we were kind of behind the scenes at opening. We helped somebody kind of set up their booth, and so we got to see what happened there from the inside out, and Hasbro was capped literally within 10-15 seconds at most. I mean, basically they opened the doors, and all of the dealers that had switched their badge around to be non-dealers and their workers immediately clustered in the front. So as I said in the prep video, I saw it firsthand now. You know, you really have no hope of getting in that line on preview night if you're a regular attendee, and so hopefully you went Thursday. Now, Thursday morning, one kind of twist for us. Last year, we were in line by 7:30 a.m., and we got an 11 a.m. time slot to get our stuff. This year, we were in line a little bit before 5 a.m. We were outside before even the convention center opened, and we got a 4 o'clock time slot. And from what I understand, people that got there by about 5:30 was about the capping time. So something to be aware of next year, and we'll talk more as we work up to that. But I know for myself, I'm really starting to debate how important Hasbro exclusives are to me. And so this year it was the Black Series Boba Fett I'd wanted since I'd seen it at Toy Fair, and the Deadpool was awesome. But it's definitely something you got to consider. They did not start handing out the tickets till 8 a.m. So even though CCI came out and said that the drawings would now be at 6:30 a.m., The actual drawing didn't happen until 8 a.m. each day. And when I talked to Hasbro about it, they said that's just when they're doing them, and they didn't, they didn't really place blame, but it's just like, well, this is when we do it, and we don't really care what CCI is saying. So it's kind of created this situation now where you can't, because some people say, oh, well, that's cool, I'm just gonna get there later because I know Hasbro's not gonna give them out till later anyway. You don't really have that option. You have to be there by 5:30 in the morning, yet they're not gonna hand them out till 8. So you're gonna waste a good chunk of your morning waiting in line, and you don't have any other option because of the situation that's been created. So hopefully there'll be a revision there for next year. If not, we're all left to consider that. Another thing you may have noticed this year is even with your time slot, if people can come back after their time, and so maybe you had a time slot for noon, but you don't show up till 2, let's say. And so things got so compacted. So at one point my wife came to get in line, and they were telling her not only could she not get in line, she couldn't stand away to get in line, you just have to kind of circle. And so it kind of becomes almost, it looks like duck, duck, goose or something like that, as you're just circling the booth, waiting for them eventually to grab 3 or 4 of you, throw you in line, and then you keep going. So we heard stories of people saying that they had just been circling the booth for an hour. So a huge time commitment, and something to consider if you're looking at that for next year. Next thing, we did the Mattel pre-order, which I highly suggest, although they don't have that down to a science. And this year, it was very disappointing. They were closed from 11 to 3 each day, which makes no sense to me at all, but they were open at 7 a.m. But 11 to 3, they were closed for I don't know what. The reports we got, and Mattel themselves said that basically they were very busy in the afternoons, and we heard reports of people waiting in line 2 or 3 hours even and not being able to pick up their pre-sale items. In our case, we waited till Saturday morning, came in at about 7:15, 7:20 a.m. and walked right in. So something to consider for next year if you're going to do the pre-sale. Last year we took off from the pre-sale because there just wasn't enough from Maddie that I really wanted, and a lot of the Maddie stuff, even more so than Hasbro, will show up in the secondary market and not have a real high value. As long as you're okay without monster high, most of the things will show up for decent prices afterwards. We did pick up the Shazam, the Captain Marvel figure, which was a cool one, but we only really picked that up because of the Batusi. And so that was one, again, from the day that we heard that that was coming out, that was kind of a must figure. And so it's an awesome looking little set there. This is something I think will keep escalating in price as time goes on, because it refers back to the 66 Batman, which was a huge item. They did sell out of most of their items at the booth. There was only a handful of things left. I think they did much better in terms of the types of things they were selling this year than past years. So so I can't recommend enough, though, if you're going to do Mattel next year for 2014, do the pre-order. And then always the recommendation there is don't head over to the to pick up your pre-order until you hear on Twitter what the line times are like. So the last thing you want to do is walk all the way over to the Marriott and leave the fun of Comic-Con to sit in a line for 2 hours and maybe be turned away. So you got to monitor that and keep an eye. We also went with Hallmark. Hallmark is always kind of a must for us to pick up for people and things like that. And actually, my wife always handles that booth, and it's a fairly well-run line. They cap you at 1 per item. So this year they had the Rancor for Star Wars. They had the Kelvin as a Star Trek ornament. And then they had the Man of Steel in the black outfit. And so we kept that. And the other 2 we passed along. But it was, again, a well-run line. Again, DC was the least popular of the properties that they had there. But it seemed like that was even, again, a little bit more crowded. And I think that was a theme for everything on the floor in terms of exclusives. Everything was a little bit more crowded. Preview night, as we talked about before, and hopefully you kind of heeded that advice, preview night is like the worst night to shop. So not that you don't shop that night, because obviously a lot of people want to get their exclusives taken care of and things sell out. And so for us, we actually went over to Gentle Giant, and that was kind of our main target for that night. Picked up the 12-inch Yak Face, which never sold out, and often you could just walk to the front of the line to get. Outside the Vinyl Cape Jawa a few years ago, that's been the case for the last couple years, so that's always an option there. And then we picked up the amazing Spider Ham, which keeps in line with their Squirrel Pool and their Throg mini bust of the past, and it's kind of a cool little thing there. And so Gentle Giant normally isn't too bad, and it's usually a good backup if you run over. What we usually do preview night, we run to Hasbro, it's messed up, I go to Gentle Giant, Carmel goes to Hallmark, and we kind of break it up that way and at least get a little bit of the shopping out of the way. Lastly, for us, in terms of major exclusives we picked up were the Chogs. If you read Chew, you'd be familiar with these. If not, they're just kind of some funny looking creatures here. But these were at the Image booth, and actually the creators were selling those. And Image had a lot of cool things. They had the Governor, an exclusive figure for Walking Dead, some cool shirts, things like that. And Image always brings a cool amount of things, and usually they're not too hard of a place to get into as well. So we picked up a couple other little trinkets here and there. For us in general, we spent about $400 on stuff this year, which is much less than, I mean, for us as collectors, that's a show we really save up for. We don't bring thousands of dollars like a lot of collectors do, but we usually bring around $700 or $800 to shop, and this year we only spent about half of that. And so it was kind of a down year for exclusives for us in terms of what we saw and what we really wanted there. That being said, again, to keep in mind for 2014, a lot of things sold out by Friday, Saturday. Saturday, NECA opened up, I believe, with just like 5 or so of the Jasons left. I mean, so a lot of these things, maybe that was Sunday, I'm sorry, it was Sunday. The Magic cards were gone the late Thursday, early Friday from Hasbro. So a lot of things sell out. So you're kind of in this quandary, and there's no easy solution to it. And we always talk about having a good game plan, but in terms of the exclusives is, ideally, you'd wait till Saturday or Sunday when everybody's in Hall H and Ballroom 20 and they've gotten their shopping out of the way, but because most of the booths don't obey daily allotments and they kind of just sell through, you have that as a risk. One last note on exclusives before we wrap up here is just the Marvel booth. That was something we talked about going into the show, is kind of that introduction, and that was a messy spot, and even messier about is they didn't have limits on most of the things. So for example, the Old Man Logan that was selling for $200 or $300 before the show, you know, people were going up and buying cases of them for 30 bucks there and then flipping them on eBay, and it drove the price of the market down. In fact, right now if you're watching this video when we're first putting it up, is a great time to buy the Old Man Logan, because you can get them for 50 or 60 bucks after being 200, 300 for a long time there. But they didn't have any sort of real rules. It was very kind of the Old West there. The line was frequently 45 minutes to an hour, which isn't horrible, but it kind of had that same problem where they'd have to cap and things like that. So it's something, it'll be interesting to see what they do next year. I much prefer the way DC handles it, and they go through graffiti, and they're professionals, and they kind of know how to do their exclusives. It didn't feel like having the Marvel booth, having the Marvel store at the Marvel booth, that felt like that was the last thing they needed, was more crowding in that area and more messiness. So hopefully that's something they'll address for next year though. Anyway, we'll have more information going into 2014 San Diego Comic-Con. We'll give more tips. We'll get a lot more into Lego. Not a lot to share on that front this year because we really stayed away from it because of how messy it was, and that doesn't look like it's going to be anything that gets fixed too soon. But keep an eye out for more that we have from this channel as we get closer to 2014. Till next time, I'll see you in line somewhere.
I see you, girl, with that little purple dress on. I see you at the next Comic-Con. With your glasses on. The glasses on.